Testing, testing. Well, yeehaw. Okay, Jared, let me know if you can hear me now. Okay, Jared, let me know if you can hear. Oh, splendid. Thank you, Jared. Okay, let's take it from the top, boys and girls. It is Qui-Gon Jinn Tuesday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. Okay, so we're having a clunky live stream tonight, but clunky is better than nothing. That's what I always say. Welcome to the latest iteration of Buddha's very easy meditation. Hatha Yoga's mindfulness and meditation are the seventh and eighth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. But to really make the most of them, they are supported by Hatha Yoga's energy work. Energy work. Now, there's many forms of energy work. The form of energy work that I find to be most efficient is mudra, or finger gesture oriented energy work. Okay, guys, I am having a spazzy von spaz evening. Okay, so let's try that again. Anu Yoga's energy work supports our practice of meditation. There are very many forms of energy work, but the energy work I find to be most efficient is mudra oriented. And mudra is just finger gestures. So what we're going to do is collect 4 collections of 12 sets of 12 rounds. Let us pretend that a round is simply one inhalation and one exhalation. Because if you don't breathe out, you're going to turn blue, tip over, wiggle funny, and scare the dog. So on our right hand, every time we inhale, we can advance the right thumb. Thusly, over the span of 4 breaths, we can our thumb can move to the following 12 positions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, that's just 12 rounds. How do we get 12 sets? Well, for that, we have to recruit our left hand. And just like the right, we always begin with a little finger, just like in Jiu-Jitsu. So we would count 1, 2, 3 sets of 12 rounds, 4, 5, 6 sets of 12 rounds, 7, 8, 9 sets of 12 rounds, 10, 11, 12 sets of 12 rounds. Well, if we count on all the fingers of our right hand and all the fingers of our left hand, how are we going to keep track of 4 collections? Allow me to introduce you to your knuckles. So by we begin. We keep track of our first of 4 collections by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger upon the tip of our left little finger, and place these 2 hands palms up in our lap. I'm a little disoriented. I've switched computers, so do bear with me. Let's see here. So, additionally, here's where the energy work comes in. By resting the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger upon the tip of our left little finger and setting these 2 hands upon our lap, we are gently inviting subtle energy to coalesce in the horizontal secret wheel in the bladder area of our lower abdomen. God, boy, I'm really out of, I'm very much trying to adjust to these new computers. Please bear with me. So what we're going to do now we're going to turn to the 7th and 8th folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, Ati Yoga's mindfulness and meditation. And I will explain that to you in exquisite detail after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. Okay, let's see. You know, something ain't right with this. Let me adjust this real quick. Let's see here. So what I'm going to do is make this document a little smaller, tack it down, and drag the top part. Let's hit Alt, and there we go. And now that all that's left to do is to center it horizontally. Cowabunga. Phew. Okay. This is Lama. As promised, let's get to it. Or as they said in the Celebrity Deathmatch, let's get it on. At long last, welcome to Ati Yoga Spontaneous Awareness and Release. So my intention is, for the first quarter of tonight's practice, explain mindfulness and meditation through the lens of neuroscience. If you're as geeky as me, then you probably are aware of Monty Python's Flying Circus. And one time they had a game show called How Not to Be Found. Well, I'm going to begin my explanation with how not to meditate. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, but no, not in the fun, tingly way. What could that suckiness look like? Well, you know, the Buddha, who was known as Gautama, was said to have been flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. That's just Jim Dandy. But his foolish cousin Devadatta was the opposite. He thought it would be brilliant to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. So I was raised to be this way. Most of us are raised to be this way, especially in late-stage capitalism. Especially in a country that acts like the world's schoolyard bully. So it should come as little surprise that so many people who fancy themselves meditation teachers are rigid and controlling. And these rigid and controlling people implore their students to actively concentrate or focus and to actively analyze or contemplate. And they might use all sorts of interesting names. They might call it sati, they might call it samatha, they might call it mindfulness, but that would be incorrect. They might call it vipassana. But even though they use old, ancient names from an exotic language, the only way to perform those activities is to rely upon discrete pathways, such as those found in our medial prefrontal cortex or our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Please excuse the simplicity of the artwork I'm using. The downside to doing that is that as our prefrontal cortex grows fatigued, our almond-shaped amygdala gets triggered. Now, our amygdala is the seat of anxiety and aggression. And I don't have to tell you that no one chooses to meditate so they can be more anxious and more cranky. Unless you're a Sith Lord. So, here's the good news. The complexity of the central nervous system is comprised of more than just the amygdala or the prefrontal cortex. Now check this out. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access our sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. The sympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us notice in a very special way, in a manner that's opposite of concentration, to help us notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. Yes, this is the opposite of concentration. But what is it we are supposed to notice? We can't help but notice mind's antics of perception, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, such as emoting, intending, reasoning, recalling, or imagining. Now, this seems like a tall order. Fortunately, it's as easy as silently and mentally reciting the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. Now, this could seem a bit overwhelming, being so vulnerable to so much sensory input, being so vulnerable to the external or the internal, the physical or the mental, the pleasurable or the painful, the interesting or the boring, the glorious or the grotesque. Fortunately, evolution's got our back, because every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are already wired to access, effortlessly and automatically, our parasympathetic nervous system ensconced within both the lower third as well as the upper third of that same spinal cord. So this parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us physically relax and mentally release in harmony with our exhalation in such a manner that causes all that we perceive during our previous inhalation to fleetingly feel somewhat less solid, less permanent, and less defining. And once again, there's an easy way to do that. Simply silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. Now, let me see if I skipped anything over here. So this is because of the simplicity of this process. That's why the ancient Zen masters would say, just sit. That wasn't a literal instruction, that was figurative. For simply the simplicity of meditation is that all we're doing is, instead of fighting, instead of using our cerebral cortex to fight with our autonomic nervous system, we're cooperating with it. That's all we're doing. It's kind of like this. In the movie What About Bob? The protagonist was tied to the mast of a yacht. And his friend said, "Bob, you're sailing." And Bob responded, "Well, the boat's doing most of the work. I'm just going along for the ride." And that's what's going on with meditation. We're just cooperating with the natural functions of our sympathetic nervous system's inhalation and our parasympathetic nervous system's exhalation. Similarly, another Soto Zen aphorism is thinking, no thinking, or thinking, not thinking. What does that mean? It simply means as you breathe in, you can't help but notice all sorts of stuff. And as you relax into your exhalation, you can't help but let go of it to one degree or another, which is pretty cool. Now, once again, never mind. So, having said all that, let's go back to the main practice and now sit for about 15 minutes or so. Oh, good. That's good. Well done, Jared. That was an annoying movie, wasn't it? Oh, Jared, who can forget death therapy? Excellent. Well, thank you for humoring me during the slapdash editing. So, here we go. We've come to our second of 4 collections. Now, okay, well, there you go. I've managed to scare everyone away. So we've come to our second collection of 12 sets of 12 rounds. We're going to keep track of that simply by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger upon the tip of our left ring finger in our lap. Doing so will gently invite our subtle energies to coalesce at the horizontal navel wheel. Let's talk about mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness and meditation constitute the 7th and 8th folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Well, so what's the big deal with that? Glad you asked. Because what if enlightenment was as simple as mastering the Buddha's Eightfold Path? What does mastery mean? That kind of sounds spooky and scary. Think of it this way. You were probably much smarter than me as a child, but I had huge amounts of difficulty learning how to just tie my own shoes. And after a lot of effort and a lot of tears and a lot of repeat instructions, eventually I got so good at tying my shoes that I could do so spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. We are wired to master things. We mastered being potty trained. We mastered learning how to brush our teeth. We mastered learning how to floss our teeth. We mastered learning how to tie our shoes. We mastered learning how to ride a bike. And we can master the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Now, the dynamo that drives the Eightfold Path is simply mindfulness and meditation. So check this out. When we practice mindfulness, which is simply as simply as silently and mentally reciting the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation, and practice meditation by silently and mentally reciting the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation, 3 amazing things happen. First, we calm our almond-sized amygdala, the seat of aggression and anxiety. Second, we stimulate our anterior cingulate gyrus, which not only looks like a catcher's mitt, but it functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. What's the significance of that? 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path pertains to loving kindness. The Buddha was keen on teaching the 4 bases of mindfulness. The mental, the interpersonal, the physical, and the circumstantial. And the kind intention, kind communication, kind conduct, also known as nonviolence, and kind commerce, simply which means trading in our cruelty and our competitiveness for kindness and cooperation. This constitutes 50% of the Eightfold Path. And you might say, and rightfully so, it's one thing to feel empathetic. How do I know what the right thing is to do? How do I know what to do and when to do it and how to do it? And this is the wild thing. The more time we spend practicing mindfulness and meditation, perhaps once every 12 hours, the more we will notice that our choices and our utterances and our deeds will flow from the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity. Not scattered spontaneity, but centered spontaneity. And that is the sixth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. The more time we sit in mindfulness, noticing vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, we can't help but notice changes. Changes in what we see and what we hear and what we feel. It changes in what we taste and what we smell. Changes in what we emote, what we intend, what we recall, what we reason, what we imagine. These changes become inescapable. And that is the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. So here's the wild thing. I don't know if you're as lazy as me. I'm pretty lazy. And I love the fact that if I just do mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours, the rest of the path will take care of itself. Before things got complicated, originally the Buddha taught no rules. All he taught was the Eightfold Path, because it is self-contained. Practice mindfulness and meditation, and you will very soon become the person that your dog already thinks you are. And if, by the way, if sitting for an hour feels impossible, that's cool. Start off sitting for 5 minutes. Just tune into my live streams for 5 minutes. Set your timer for 5 minutes. That's fine. The first week. And the second week, practice for 10 minutes every 12 hours. The third week, 15 minutes every 12 hours. The fourth week, 20 minutes every 12 hours. You see a pattern here? By the end of the 16th week, not only will you be able to sit for an entire live stream without, wishing me dead, but you will have mastered the path. How cool is that? So, let's tie this up in a big red bow. The key to noticing vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. And the key to relaxing in harmony with our exhalation in such a way that that which we perceive during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less solid, less permanent, and less defining. It's simply a matter of silently and mentally reciting the one-syllable FREEBIES during each exhalation. We come now to our third of 4 collections of 12 sets of 12 rounds, remembering that a round is simply 1 inhalation and 1 exhalation. We count our 12 rounds upon our right hand. So over the span of 12 breaths, our right thumb could progress. During the span of 12 inhalations, our right thumb could progress 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And how do we count multiple sets of 12? On our left hand. First set of 12, second, third set of 12, fourth, fifth, sixth set of 12, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th set of 12. How do we keep track of our third of 4 collections? Simple. By resting the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger in our lap. Doing so gently invites our subtle energies to coalesce at our thumbnail-sized horizontal heart wheel. So let us demystify Buddha nature. Each of us was born with a sympathetic nervous system which makes possible mindfulness. Each of us was born with a parasympathetic nervous system which makes possible meditation. The vast majority of us have a fully functional anterior cingulate gyrus which makes possible empathy. These three, the capacity for mindfulness, the capacity for meditation, the capacity for empathy, comprise the tripod that was of our Buddha nature, which means mastering, no less practicing the spiritual path is not for the special, it's not for the elite, it's for everybody. And so allow me to remind you that mindfulness is simply noticing in a very special way. It's simply noticing vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, but noticing what? Noticing mind's antics of perception. You know, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, but also emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. These things aren't hindrances. They're mind's natural functions, and our job is to notice them. The easiest way to do that is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. Meditation is just about relaxing in harmony with our exhalation in such a manner that all that we perceived during our previous inhalation fleetingly feels a little bit less solid, a little bit less permanent, and a little bit less defining. How do we do that? Easy. We silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. Welcome to this evening's live stream. We come now to the fourth of 4 collections of 12 sets of 12 rounds. I'd like to take a moment to explain to you how that works. It's great fun to use a stopwatch, but let's face it, phones can be lost or stolen or confiscated. But we most always have our hands. And so I'd like to show you how to practice Bengali crease counting. Every time we inhale, we can advance our right thumb so that over the course of 12 inhalations, we could place our thumb 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, therefore counting 12 rounds, and a round is just 1 inhalation and 1 exhalation. To count multiple sets of 12 rounds, we enlist our left hand. Our first, second, and third sets of 12 rounds, our fourth, fifth, and sixth sets of 12 rounds, our 7th, 8th, and 9th sets of 12 rounds, our 10th, 11th, and 12th sets of 12 rounds. How do we count 4 collections of that? Well, that's where we introduce our knuckles. And so now that we're on our 4th collection, we can rest the great knuckle, the base of our right index finger, upon the tip of our left index finger, and our lap, palms up, so that our thumbs can happily count creases. Oopsie, gotta push the right button in the right sequence. So let's explore how this works. Allow me to take a moment or two to brutally insult your intelligence. The late Tuku Tunda explained that mindfulness was simply watching the play of mind. Vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly watching its mind perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. Is there an easy way to do that? Yes. Silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. The late Chogdud Tulku taught that meditation was simply relaxing into the nature of mind. That sounds spooky. How do we do that? Simple. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we notice during our previous inhalation will automatically and fleetingly seem a trifle less solid, less permanent, and less defining. How do we do that? By silently and mentally reciting the 1-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. And if you're still here, let's explore the spooky topic of non-duality. So I'd like to debunk misunderstood aphorisms. So humans have evolved to think symbolically. That's why figures of speech are found in every language. So consider the phrase, everything is awareness. This makes no sense if taken literally, but figuratively, it reminds us that who we are is not defined by what we perceive or emote or intend or reason or recall or imagine. That it's safe to be vulnerable to whatever comes up. Whether that which comes up is external or internal, physical or mental, pleasurable or painful, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque. Everything is grist for the mill. Allow me to illustrate. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever ugliness or beauty we might have perceived during our inhalation melts into the simplicity of just sight. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever experience of discord or melody we might have perceived during our inhalation melts into the simplicity of just sound. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever experience of pain or pleasure we might have perceived during our inhalation melts into just sensation. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever experience of disgust or deliciousness we might have perceived during our inhalation could melt into just flavor. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever experience of fragrance or foulness we perceive during our inhalation could melt into the simplicity of just scent. And so the great South Indian Buddhist Saint Nagarjuna taught that there were two truths, the conventional and the ultimate. As we breathe in, we are wired to notice the conventional. As we relax into our exhalation, we're wired to relax into the ultimate. These things happen automatically. All we got to do is get out of our own way. So we come to our last practice of meditation. Let's make the most of it. What is the purpose of meditation? Do we meditate to identify everything yucky and throw it in the dumpster? No. That just makes of our life a gilded cage with us as its prisoner. No, progress in the spiritual path is when we purport ourselves as if we welcome whatever comes. Whatever stays, we let it stay, and whatever goes, we let it go. It is not a state of disassociation. We give ourselves permission to feel the full spectrum of emotions, from the glorious to the grotesque. But we also allow our body to process them. Consider a pendulum and a grandfather clock swinging from one end of the arc to its other end of the arc. We notice emotions, we release emotions, and then we notice something else, maybe the same emotion. That's okay. Enlightenment is not a lofty destination. It is simply mastering the path wherever it leads us. Some people are wise, some are foolish, some are clever, some are stupid, some are kind, some are cruel. Our job is not to control others. Our job is not to manipulate others. Our job is not to tell ourselves pretty lies about others. Our job is to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. And during the exhalation, physically relax and mentally release. Allow me to insult your intelligence further. We are wired to notice our needs, and we are wired to notice our desires. And the basic definition of suffering is not getting what we want when we want it for as long as we want it, if at all. Our job is not to lie to ourselves about our desires or our needs. Our job is to be painfully honest with ourselves and to process whatever comes our way, be it subtle or complex, delights or dreads. It is my sincere desire that you found this to be beneficial. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10.5 hours,